Joining us. The floor is yours.
Okay, thanks very much. I'm really happy to share here the stage with all this community, and I'm really happy to be here. Okay. So again, a little presentation. I'm Santiago Troncoso, Research Director at Quobis, and well, I spent counting the degree that I also finished here in Germany. In Germany, it's 15 years. I think this year is going to have working on this voice over IP and real-time communication space. And after that, I have the opportunity to change through different spaces of the product development and specification. I think that a really interesting journey that brings to current date, where I'm working mainly on research for these new technologies and startups. But who is Quobis and what is these people doing that my professor said when I finished my degree that makes things with asterisks and stuff? So Quobis is a company, a small medium company from Galicia that is in the northwest part of Spain that crafts solutions for telcos that work from almost the beginning with telco technologies. And we are driven by these three main values, that is independence, care, and trust, and allow us to work on a more confident part, and also to make us an authorities, allow us to work more in what we love, and also to work with standardizations and to work and suggest free of any kind of tie about the knowledge and so on. So we are about 50 engineers working spread around Spain, and we work, we started at 2006, and from 2012 we were building our own products, and also we contributed to the webrtc standards, and also we make big product there. And we were really big fans of Kamailio. And in the very early years, we also asked Daniel to come to our headquarters. And I tried to recover this photo from these amazing people that is here. One is in Nokia, other in Oracle, Red Hat, so on. But I tried and asked to my generative AI to try to improve it a little bit. Okay, we have this lady here that is not Fatima at all, but okay. But I really focus on the Daniel release, that it's really amazing. Okay, so I'm going to talk today about CAMARA. CAMARA is in fact the pronunciation, and it's telco APIs. And telco APIs is not anything new, but it's now with emojis and so on. Oh, this is previous. Okay, to make a little presentation from the beginning, there is a missed word there, but it doesn't matter. The idea is that we have very niche protocols and very specific concepts for telco communications, and any kind of API that appears on the very early ages was lack of standardization and so on. Okay, but current times also bring with a lot of new open source projects and new paradigm change, and we are seeing that things are changing. Things need to be much more faster. Okay, there were speakers. There were talks this day that point to that problem with the telecom networks that being so slow, so they need to arrive with something newer, something faster. And one of these main drivers was to need to monetize the 5G inversion and all the technology that is deployed, but it's not being used. And it's not being used because there is no applications, and all the promised applications are not appearing. This is an official CAMARA slide, and the main frictions that they want to fix is to provide something that scales, that brings consistency, and to bring simplicity to reach this massive amount of developers that works with web technologies and with REST APIs, because one of the main points also that tries to fit into Camara is that it's demand driven. Okay, so they want us to bring together a vendor and a telco and then to define a use case, and that use case is the one that is going to be sold. It's not a technology, it's not something that you need to really dive into it. It's just a use case that you want to solve, and we will see it on detail. How it looks, or what's new here. They put together the GCMA, the TM forum, and they also get in contact with Linux Foundation to create an open source project that could be agile and that could be fast and to have this new field, this new concept. But most of all, what they want to look for is the KISS principle, okay? To keep it simple, to keep it easy to understand, to keep it easy to join. Okay, this other official slide is to just get clear the scope of what we are talking about. We are talking about define APIs for the northbound interface for developers, and it also brings another side effect that is the appearance of hyperscalers or aggregators of APIs. And there are appearing very big players, and there are a lot of investment on this area, because the main concept here is to bring a specific API, and that API will expose a function of a telco or a function that requires to bring some specific feature to the service at the very end. So if you develop an application, for example, to drive a drone or to locate a drone that is flying, you don't need to have all the operators implementing them. Then you can deal with the aggregator, and the aggregator will deal with the operator itself. And it makes it simple, and it gets a lot of traction, okay? So there are the main operators playing there. There are also a lot of vendors, and we are happy to be here behind Mavenir, Radisys, Red Hat, and we also say that if you are interested into this, just jump ahead, because it's really fast-moving space, and it's really getting a lot of traction. Okay, what our operators are doing now, well, this study is from March, but it's pretty similar. But the idea is that they are exposing directly the use cases. And these use cases are not being exposed like in the early ages, where you get a contact with the operator brings you access to an API, then a password, and whatever. There's fancy developer portals with these kinds of elements that all the marketers things that the developers are. They are also trying to expose it in a better way, okay? So, as I said, it's not more thinking on the very old classic voice over IP engineer. It's more thinking on a modern engineer that consumes an API. Okay, but what I want to show is that there are functions, okay? It was said before, today, that there are a lot of functions here, okay? There are QoS profiles, there are swing swapping identification, there are verification numbers. It's not a specific concept, it's just a REST API to say, okay, this number is valid, and say, okay, using your authentication, using the information that I have, yes, it's valid. Okay, so there are atomic functions, and nowadays we can say that, okay, we also can exchange SDP for webrtc calls, okay? And that was the main point that we tried to help here, because we found it really interesting that say, if the webrtc signaling is not possible to standardize, we can try to provide something, okay? So, quick. webrtc was already introduced today. There are a lot of elements, there are a lot of protocols involved, but webrtc itself is not a protocol, okay? webrtc itself is the exposure of some capabilities of the browser and so on, and a compendium of protocols to retrieve this information, to construct the SDP. Okay, but to make calls, to register into a network, and to connect to a conference, for example, is so simple as exchange the SDPs and keep them together and maybe establish some signaling to keep them synchronized, okay, or to reconnect, as previously was said. So if we look to the WIP and web, and Lorenzo made a presentation the last year, if I don't recall bad, but the idea is the same. You will have one emitter, one receiver, okay, and it's a de facto concept, or there is a state-of-the-art solution for broadcasting. There are a lot of people using it, and what they do is just to reduce the use case. It's just to make calls. In 2004, he was Anton Roman that stayed here, and presenting these slides also pointed to this problem. So every vendor were doing their own stuff. SIP over WebSocket was in the middle, but every vendor tried to introduce their own features, their own specification of the API or whatever. So it was not clear. So what we can do is, if we keep it together to register and call, we can all share the same signaling. And it will be great if someday we don't need to face again the problem with the media audio, because when you join a meeting, you say, okay, I don't have a problem. If we share the same signaling, we can keep using our own clients. You can be in Teams, I can be in Jitsi, the other one could be on their own proprietary solution, because there is no limitation for the enhanced context or the other objects that you require into your signaling. It's just to share and configure the media itself. Okay, so how does it look? The Camara project is a project hosted on GitHub. It includes it includes a space at Atlassian and Confluence where you can follow up the meeting notes and other relevant information, but most of it, well, most not. Everything is driven by Camara, okay? And the webrtc subgroup includes their own APIs and their own descriptions, and all the APIs exposed behave the same, and they were defined in the same way. They include two main folders, code and documentation. In code, you will find the open API YAMLs where the API itself is exposed, and the documentation includes some supporting documentation. What is going on, what is the movements, is included into the issues and pull requests that are included there. So in webrtc subgroup, we have three APIs, or three endpoints, if we talk on a more plain way. That is the registration, call-handling, and webrtc-events. And we will see them a little bit more in detail. One of the main benefits of to have everything exposed on open API YAMLs is that you can directly render, or also you can auto-generate your own clients and servers. With all these with these generative APIs, well, generative language models, you can now be really fast with that. What is exposed here, for example, is the registration API, and it creates a trigger for registration, okay? Regarding the IMS data, or the subscriber that you will include into this requesting, will be depending on the authorization and the previous step of onboarding, okay? We are covering here the seamless use case for calling, okay? That is a specific use case. And the main concept is that any application that you have can behave and work into the IMS network using a basic registration, okay? And after that, the main core of the feature, or the main use case, is to create a call and to receive dates about that call. So it could be created with simply say, okay, this guy, I want to call to this other guy, but after that, you can start to enhance this object. Okay, and one part of this object is, and it's not covered on this screenshot, but the main idea is that you will have an offer, an SDP offer, with your candidates as soon as you are retrieving them, because your candidate retrieval could be synchronous, that you will retrieve everything and after that start the call, or you can start with trickleize, with start and updating. Also, if you change your physical position or your access point, if you are roaming, then you need to update your SDP. This is mostly what we found when we arrived here, but what we found is that they lack of the channel to retrieve the updates back or the events that come from the network. Okay, into Camera, that they look for very defined HTTP REST concept. What they were looking is to don't have an open WebSocket, and onto this WebSocket you will send events or objects or whatever. You need to keep and include cloud events. That is a standardized way to share events, and you will receive events about your subscription. Your subscription could be tied to a registration, then you could receive an incoming call, or you could include these events for call handling when you are receiving updates about the SDP of the other side. You can have two main concepts here to keep things clear. Is you can create your WebSocket into your web application and just define how you are going to receive this request, or you can, for example, define that your sync of events could be a Firebase API or a Firebase endpoint where you will receive notifications via push notification or whatever. Okay, so this was our main point of contribution, to define this API and to handle the conversation to that. And with that, we take part of the code ownership that, like Wolfgang said, when you are trying to standardize something, it's a matter of volunteers, and we say, okay, this group is not moving, so we start to move them, we start to include extra documentation and to get people more and more involved. And we have a lot of people involved, like for example, it's Nippon Telecom, it's Deutsche Telekom, it's Mavenir, it's Ring Central now joining. It's pretty interesting that it's gaining speed. And it's released now. It's starting to be stable, a couple of releases more, and it will be finally defined. Okay, its release on Camera is about 6 months, and after that 6 months you will have updates, new features, and also new things. Our next thing is branded calls. 2 minutes more, Daniel. Our next things could be branded calls, okay, that is tightly coupled to authentication to avoid the spoofing, but the main idea is to share an easy way to create branded calls. Okay, it's not needed to have a very very big complexity of the protocols included in the middle. The intention is to define something like, I want to make this call, here is the call, okay, and that's it. And it's something that any developer can see. Okay, so a couple of minutes just to talk about Kamailio, that is what we are doing here, and it's our favorite SIP signaling. There are multiple opportunities for a thing that is in the middle of a call, okay? So, of course, and it could be obvious, it could work as a webrtc gateway working along with the SIP over WebSocket. It could implement this Camera webrtc signaling, but also Camera could be a source of features for any communications that you have. So for example, you have an emergency call and you want to create a specific slide on 5G, you can invoke the quality of service API, and after that you will have the details and the definition to create everything that you really need. Okay, and it changed completely because it's for nothing compared with what you need to understand and to create, to use a dedicated slide is just to activate something based on demand. Okay. So first use case could be to building a webrtc SIP gateway. It could, in a way, it follows the IMS standard, but the main idea is that using an HTTP server and a SIP client, you can interconnect both worlds. Okay. Also, another use case could be, well, and it's the more useful for most of you, that it's, okay, I receive any kind of event, for example, a call, for example, some kind of data, input received from Prometheus or wherever, and then using HTTP client, I can connect to this service and process the callback back. What we did, and we are designing for our platform that combines different ways to communicate between them is webrtc and also SIP signaling, is to consume some information, for example, for SIM swapping and authentication, that it's something that is really having a momentum in Camera, but also we are trying to, we are working with these operators, with Telefonica, with and others to propose how to integrate with the networks. Okay, so that's it. A minute over the time, sorry. Thanks a lot for all the people involved from our team, from Camera team that also support us. Well, thanks a lot to you.
Thank you, Santiago. So we can get a question, but maybe Lorenzo is already setting up. I will give you another microphone
Any
to
question,
answer.
blames, whatever.
Because maybe it needs to detect the Lorenzo. It's Linux, I guess. No, not Linux or Linux. Yeah. So it might take a bit of time. So, question. It has Tim. One. You can answer. Wait for me to get to Tim.
Yeah. Hey. Hello. Okay. Any question? If you want to reach us, we are here. Yeah. Okay.
So I have actually two questions. The first one is, do you think that the operators are going to make it sufficiently the same over all of them that you can actually just interop properly, or are you going to have like minor versions between them all? That's the first question. And the second one is, why didn't you follow what WIP is doing with sending candidates over a patch request rather than a separate put?
Come again with the second question?
The second question was about the HTTP method. Why it's done with put instead of patch, like method?
That's a nice bug that you can rise and you can join. Yeah, that's the kind of agile movement that they are looking on Camera. That it's to just identify anyone. Okay, there is no need to raise a bug here. You can just join the group, or you can just open a conversation about anything. That's a really good idea, because we already discussed that, but we were a little bit in a hurry to make the release. They are really tight for releasing times in order to get things done. Okay, and also in the Mobile World Congress, there were a lot of telcos exposing features using Camera APIs. And to tie with the first question, if how we are going to deal with all the different vendors and if they are going to cover this or not, well, vendors not, telcos, that's the main role of the API aggregators. Okay, they are going to work as middleware that will handle the different time of implementation of the different versioning. Okay, the definitions will have a specific releasing, and every 6 months will be released a meta release that includes all the packages. Some of the groups will provide new features, others not. Okay.
Okay.
But the main idea is that.
Okay, so the answer is no. Will be different version with different, and we'll use a
probably.
middleware in the middle. Okay, thank you, Santiago, once again.